To the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. This is our combined meeting. It's a work session followed by a public meeting in the bigger room. A public comment will be taken in the big room during our public meeting. So the first item is with the PBA. They gave us a package of proposals for off-duty salary rates. As you may or may not know, we now have an ordinance which codifies, for lack of a better term, the off-duty salary rates. And the PBA is asking us to amend that ordinance. From what I understand, it's been confirmed, I've spoken with both the JCC and the Board of Ed, that the current price salary rates are, rather old. They haven't had an increase in a while, and they are not getting paid the going rate. As far as the JCC is concerned, this is where it all started. The JCC came first to Mark Zinna, who was acting mayor while I was out, and then to me, concerned that they would like to have a more significant presence of Tenafly policemen up there. And the reason the Tenafly police were not going up there was the rate was rather low, and they didn't feel...
$240 or $300, something like that.
I'm sorry?
$300 per day. Something like that.
So they didn't, they had other jobs they could take that were worth more money. The JCC was willing to pay them more money, so this was negotiated, as has been done in the past, with the PBA speaking to the JCC. They've agreed on a salary guide, which is mentioned in here. I spoke with the business administrator for the Board of Education, and they are okay with the changes as well.
But we're not paying that. Whoever
No.
asked them,
They pay it to us.
The third party pays.
And the third party, or the vendor, I use the term vendor, pays us, and we pay the PBA.
Oh.
That's the way it works. We get a $5, I think it's $5 administrative fee.
Yes, sir.
Per hour. And
But most of them say no administrative fee.
The new ones says no administration fee. That's our prerogative.
That has nothing to do with the fee that they're not paying. The
Okay,
vendor is not paying.
Okay, they're not paying the fee.
Exactly.
Got it.
All right.
Believe me, it took me a couple of weeks to figure this one out myself, with the help of Brandon.
But that's the question I have over here, Peter, if I may.
You want to ask me, or we have a couple of representatives?
No, I need to ask something. We need to basically look at the differential in pay to understand
Differential in pay between whom?
between the previous ordinance and this ordinance. This ordinance over here basically is a flat rate with a 4 hours or 8 hours bill. That's what the way it is, 4 hours minimum, and if it is a minute
3
over.
hour minimum.
No, look at the, not the
Board of
school.
Well, first of all,
Oh,
Max, you're looking at the not-for-profit.
Not for profit, yeah,
Okay.
because if the school, we understand that. So basically is, one is basically 60 per hour, 7 hours minimum per day for an assignment for 5 days, if you have a continuous assignment. And the other one is 95 hours, basically $95 per day, 4 hours
Per
minimum.
hour.
Per hour.
Yeah, per hour, 4 hour minimum, or if there is a minute over, it's 8 hours bill.
So let me explain something to you, all right? Because I had a long conversation with the CEO of the JCC
Yeah.
today, just to make sure that they understood what we were considering, and that they approved of it.
Yeah.
The 4-hour minimum, that is looked upon basically as a special event. The Reuben Run.
Yeah.
You have a speaker coming that brings a big crowd in. They get a 4-hour minimum, which normally these events don't approach, don't go over 4 hours.
Yeah.
They have signed off on this.
Yeah.
They have no problem with it. So I'm just letting you
Yeah.
know. The other thing is, the $60 per hour is if they want somebody sitting in the lobby on a
For
daily
5
basis.
days, yeah, for
For a
5
minute,
days.
well,
minimum.
at least 5
Even in
days.
the case of the JCC, it may not even have to be 5 days.
No, that's what it requires.
That's what it says, I understand that.
It has to
Okay.
be a 5 days requirement. And the other one, if it's not a 5 days requirement, it's a $95 per hour for 4 hours minimum. If it's a minute over, it's 8 hours. I would like to look at, compared to the previous ordinance.
Well, they gave you, at least I have a copy, because I have,
No, we don't.
I
Yeah,
have a...
there is something over here, no, there
Where?
is something over here.
In the main letter?
Yeah, it was something with the old, and I'm just trying to see, somebody can put together like a small table to see what we're talking in increases. Because this is not only for JCC,
Right.
it's for everybody that we're gonna have as a nonprofit. JCC is one of them. But if the Church of the Atonement or something wants there, it's the same rule, we're not gonna make a difference
But
here.
once again, the 4-hour window it's basically for special events, and they don't go over 4 hours.
Yeah, but if it's, let's say, I want to say, let's say it's Christmas or it's Easter, and they have a whole day event, and they go 5 hours, it's going to be 8 hours. I want to see the difference with what was before, so we know how much all the other nonprofits, not only JCC, are going to be basically paying. Because JCC, it's a unique case, we understand, there was
Well,
conversation.
Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, I don't believe that that clause was in the old arrangement.
No.
Do you want, could you please explain to...
You have it here?
It's on your,
Yeah, it's.
you have it. If you scroll past the letter with the new
Oh,
rates, you'll see.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Before was
I'm looking
$340.
at the current
Current one.
ordinance. and
Yeah,
I
it was
don't believe that-
$340 per day.
Okay. I don't believe that old ordinance has that clause where if you go a minute over 4 hours, you have to
Right.
pay for 8.
No.
So I want to ask if you could explain, why you feel that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And why don't you introduce yourself
Sure.
to everybody and...
Let's step right behind you, sir. I'm Brandon Moriarty. I'm a Tenafly police officer. I'm the PBA president, as most of you already know. This is Sean McNamara. He's my vice president. He has significantly more years on than me, so
So
I
if you're
thought
impeached, he steps in?
that is correct. If I get sick or something, he also steps in. So I like him to be made aware of all the things I've been doing. We've done this step by step together. As you know, based on our talks, I've done a lot of research. He is my partner with that. In regards to, I'm just going to borrow this
Sure.
if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Okay. In regards to all of the revisions I made, all right, I tried to break it down to go step by step with the ones that already exist. So we'll just look at, I'll march right down through things for you to make it nice and easy. For the Board of Education, okay, I phrased it as the 85 per hour, 3-hour minimum. I basically left the wording exactly the same, just simply changing the dollar. All right, you haven't had any question with that, so we'll move on past that.
No, we
We'll go-
do. Basically, you're changing from $150 to $200.
That's correct.
Starting in 2018.
Correct, sir.
Okay,
Well, let me just, I had the same question.
yeah.
There's two parts to this. One is women's soccer and wrestling.
The wrestling.
For whatever reason, because this predates all of us,
Yes, sir.
always had a lower price than the
Yeah.
other sports. The reality of it is, neither of those sports have required a police presence there for years. If you go to a wrestling match or a women's soccer game, you never see an officer there. So the intent was just to bring it up so it's the same
So it's one of
charge
those
as
things
any other
nobody
sport.
cares and we're just making to put it on paper?
That's correct.
A discount was given to the girls' soccer and wrestling years prior, before I
Yeah.
got there, before Sean was here, where that was at a discounted rate. We haven't worked it for the years I've been here, which is 6 years. I have not worked a wrestling or a women's soccer. It has not been made available. However,
15
I'm-
years.
So sorry, so-
15 years.
so he can speak to longer. I'm only gonna, that's
You
why
speak only
he's here.
6 hours, he speaks
6
6 years, he speaks 15 years, all right.
So the point was, I'm not going to remove a clause which saves the school money because that makes me, one, look like I'm running a scam, and two, trying to not save them money. So I left the clause in there, which still enumerates the fact that women's soccer and wrestling get a reduced rate. All I did was adjust it on scale to what we went up to.
All right.
That's all I did,
So this one goes up from 150 to
to
200.
$200.
All right. The next one. The next one, the daily, basically on a 5-day basis, goes from $340.
Well,
Where are you
you're
now?
jumping.
You're
The
not-
number 2 would be
Not for
the not-for-profit. So
Yeah.
you want to talk about that
Yeah,
next?
sure.
Okay, so we have $60 per hour per law enforcement hour, 7-hour minimum per day for any assignment containing 5 or more days in a single week.
So-
This is basically the JCC. We can't flat out put the JCC in an ordinance. You should not allow that to happen. I would not propose that to happen, because the moment someone reads that wording, it's going to be attacked. You can't single out a single entity and
That's not the
say
issue.
they
That's
get
not the
something
issue.
special.
That's not the issue. The issue is basically was increased from $340 to, what's the new rate?
It's
It comes to
95.
$420, sir.
420, exactly.
Yes, sir.
So it's increased from 340
So
to
are you upset
420.
about the monetary value? Just tell me what you're upset about.
First of all, if I'm upset, so not, it's not your problem. My problem is I want to understand the difference between the charges that you are asking versus what we have right now, so we can make an intelligent decision.
Which would be the monetary value. Is that
The
not
monetary,
correct?
yeah. And the issue is upset or not upset, we can discuss anytime you want. But that's not the issue. The issue is what's the difference in monetary
So
value?
you wanted to know what the difference is, which is
Exactly.
420 versus 340 or $80 difference?
Okay.
Move on, let's
No,
go.
but then this 4 to 8 hours thing is new, right? Over 4 hours to 8 hours, that's new.
Right, so now that we'll have to go a step further on, okay? So I'm gonna address it to, under the public and the other utilities that are not private utilities. So
Okay.
3 and 4, okay?
Okay.
That block scheduling, that's what we're basically calling it, it is for them, okay? So I'm gonna
That's the
start.
same for both, right?
Correct. It's the
Yeah.
same for both, and that's why it also falls into the bottom of the non-for-profits, okay? So our current system is 4-hour minimum, and anything over that hour, anything over the 4 hours is billed hourly then.
Right.
So 5, 6, 7, 8, and
Yeah,
continuous,
exactly.
okay?
Oh, so wait a minute. So that means, I want to understand.
Go ahead,
So if somebody is there for 4 hours, they pay the 4-hour rate.
Right.
But if it
2
goes
hours, they pay
5
4
hours,
Yeah.
Right.
Pay for it.
do they pay for 8 hours or do they pay for the hourly rate?
The
This
current
is what
sy-
I'm trying to
Right,
understand.
so the current system is it's hourly. It's actually, and it's not in, if you notice, this is the old one, it's not listed as such, okay? There's no enumeration for that. But the way we currently do it is hourly. So if it goes into 4 hours and 6 minutes, we would bill for the half hour. If it goes a minute past the half hour, we bill for the 5 hours.
That's what you're doing now, or
That's
that's
what
what
we-
you're proposing?
No,
That's what we
that's-
currently
no.
do now.
Okay.
Okay?
Before-
But also keep in mind that's not in the ordinance. It's nowhere in there that says we have to do that. We came to that agreement as a PBA.
No, in the
Now-
ordinance says like that. In the ordinance says basically that 4-hour minimum and plus $5 charges per administrative fee, and it's per hour per law enforcement, or per law enforcement officer. So
Nowhere
it's per
in the
hour.
current ordinance, sir, does
Or
it
the
say
four.
that
Four.
after. I will read it out loud.
Okay.
$95 per hour per law enforcement hour, 4 hours minimum per day,
Yeah.
plus $5 administrative cost per hour per law enforcement.
Yeah.
That's the way your current ordinance is written.
Yeah.
Nowhere in that ordinance does it say that I am required to bill half hourly or hourly afterwards, or any way of billing to be done after the
If
4
I
hour
read
minimum.
this ordinance over here, I would say that plus $5 administrative charges per hour per law enforcement. So in my mind, is that it's $95 per hour with a 4-hour minimum, then per hour per law enforcement officer. That's what it says. While it is convoluted and a little bit more of it, that's what I would read it. It's per
It's
hour.
95 per hour.
Yeah, so it is per hour.
Right.
So
So what's
it's-
changing?
No, it's the changing is now it's not going to be per hour, it's per block.
No, that's not true at all. That cannot be further from the truth, because you still have a block here. It says 95 per hour, right?
Yep.
Right, and then what does it say next to that? For a 4-hour minimum.
Yeah.
But it still says 95 per hour, right?
So, yeah, so 4 hours minimum,
Right.
Which
and
is
if
a
it's
block.
5 hours,
Which is a block.
if it's an extra hour, doesn't say that anything over 4 hours, it's 8 hours.
But it's still 95 per hour. The rate is not changing.
All right.
That's fine.
But nobody even worries about the
Right.
rate change. The difference comes before was a 4-hour
With the
minimum.
hours, correct.
Plus hourly rate.
Right.
Now is not anymore it's 4-hour minimum plus a minimum of 4 hours for every minute over the 4 hours.
So I'll just give a concrete example. And I'm actually, because I think Max is right, because under the current ordinance for a not-for-profit, if an officer worked for 5 hours, it would be $475 if it was not a week, a week long. But under the proposed ordinance, it would be $760 for 5 hours. Because the way you have it written now is if you're over the 4 hours, there's a minimum charge for 8 hours at $95 an hour. So under the old ordinance, it would have been 5 times 95, which is $475. Under the new ordinance, it would be 8 times
Yeah.
95, which is $760.
Exactly.
Which is also incorrect. Because the way,
Correct, I just did it on my calculator.
Explain, hold on.
I'm sorry, it would be 5 times, right, 5 times 95.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
that's
It
correct.
would be 8 times 95 though,
Yeah,
for
8
5
times.
hours.
yeah.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Because it says,
John,
Brandon,
give-
okay,
give
let me,
us-
because I think I know how to read something
I don't
here.
think he's arguing the math that you're doing.
Okay, my math is correct.
He's got another
Right?
point.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Again, sir. What did you just say?
I said, under the current ordinance, if an officer works for a not-for-profit on a non-5-day-in-a-row job, he
Yeah.
works for a single day,
go to the
for
5
5 hours, it would be $475.
Right.
Under the proposed ordinance, if you worked for that same amount of time, the same charge for the 5 hours would be $760.
But what you originally said was a minute after the 4 hours, we're going to the 5 hour.
I'm not talking about a minute. I'm gonna say work exactly 5 hours.
Okay, but that's not how it's done. Okay, it's half hour. So if I work a half hour,
But it
Okay.
differences.
All right, Brandon.
But just use my example, is that correct or not?
No, Brandon.
yes, using your math, it's 100% correct.
Okay.
All right, so we're talking about
So
almost,
then the reality of it is, and I'm just trying to make sure that everybody understands it
Go ahead.
the same way.
Yes, sir.
Somebody works for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Under the old ordinance, it'd be 5 times 95.
Correct.
Under the new ordinance, it'd be 8 times 95.
Yes, sir.
So that's what they're
that's
proposing.
right. Okay, we need to think about that.
Yeah, especially for non-profits.
Well, so the next question becomes,
Yes, sir.
what is your reasoning behind that change?
Okay. Which I was going to go into, so thank you. With the 12-hour schedules, the chief does not allow us to work more than 16 hours. Unless there's extreme circumstances, which normally, if we fall below minimum.
16 a day.
Correct. Well, it's split between, yes.
Yeah, 24 hours.
We'll keep it simple with that, yes, sir. So to know that we have a 4-hour job coming up, if we're scheduled as a 4-hour job, is a great advantage to us, because that then tells me if I'm coming out of work and say there's an emergency job that's only going to take 4 hours, and like, yeah, we just need you for 4. That means I can take that now. Whereas if it was up to completion, I can't rightfully take that, because there is a possibility it's going to go over the 4. The chief won't let me take that. So putting it into blocks, whereas a utility company openly admits, oh, yep, we're good for 4, that's all it's going to be, it now opens up to us being able to potentially take more jobs. The completion thing is also a phrasing they've gotten around to, where on our days off where we come in and we hear completion, I've given up my full day off now. For it to go the 4 hours and 6 minutes, which would be not 5 hours, but 4.5 to me, I've essentially given up my whole day off to come in here, made arrangements for our children and everything else, thinking I'm going to get a full day's pay, and I'm not getting a full day's pay. I'm working for 4.5 hours, had to pay a babysitter, had to pay the daycare, etc. For my children, and now I'm out after 4.5 hours. The block scheduling will allow us now to say, okay, if you didn't properly schedule your crew, it falls on you at that point. That you should have made the full advantage of the 8 hours, which we were willing to give you guys, and if you only work for 6.5, whatever, that's fine, but we're going to be paid for 8 because we were willing to give you the 8, thus hopefully helping with the family planning, etc. with that. Every vendor has already been contacted regarding this. I've heard no negative feedback. There are plenty of other towns that have also already implemented this, that do it fine. actually, when you speak to vendors, they assume it's already being done. I can't tell you how many times myself, I'm sure Sean has heard the same, when you have a job that goes for 6 hours, oh, you just bill us for the 8, right? And they're already doing the math, and we have to tell them, no, stop, don't do it for the 8, you know, it's 6, we don't round up like that.
So, let me ask you a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
I would guess that some people might have the same concerns or questions that I do.
Yes, sir.
So you've said that the rule that you work by is when you have a 12-hour shift, the most you can work after that or before that is 4 hours, correct?
Yes, a 16-hour maximum, as you had said, for 20.
Now, so if a utility knows they're going to need somebody for more than 4 hours,
Right.
what do? They ask for 2 different people? One guy works 4 hours and somebody else works more than that?
No, in an emergency circumstance, it would basically be, it would be that I would probably have to pass, and the job would get called out through our rotating list because they've already insinuated that, oh yeah, this job's going to take more than 4 hours. So at that point, they would use someone pretty much from the tour to sit there until they call out the overtime list. That guy would come in and take it because it's going to go over the 4 hours. On a regular basis, you would just go to our list if it's going to take over 4 hours, because they don't want to split it like that where I stay and you don't. If it's a very big emergency, say a pole is across the roadway, and I'm getting out at 7 and they haven't yet started calling out the list. Yes, I would start that overtime job for the 4 hours, and knowing that they said, yeah, it's going to take longer than 4. So they would tell Mac, okay, after 4 hours has gone by, so that brings us to whatever, 8, 9, 10, 11. So at 11 o'clock, Mac would start if they still need the road work. So I would sit there till 11, hit my maximum for the day, as I would go to the foreman and say, still looking like you're going to be here longer? He would say, yeah, definitely. Okay, Mac took the job, he would come in after me now.
So, follow up on that question. The rule is no more than 16 hours in a day.
Correct.
So you're there 4 hours, and the job is still not done.
Correct.
And there's nobody else called in. So you're working maybe another hour or 2. What penalty, if any, is there with the chief, who said 16 hours is your max, you're over the max? How does that impact you?
Right. So in that extreme circumstance, our OIC, my officer in charge, would call the chief. Hey, we're at minimum. We have guys going to calls on the road. I can't spare anyone to go. Brandon's already been there for 16 hours. It says there, it's looking like they're going to do another 2. So let's say it's not even going to be a full 4. It looks like they're going to be another 2. Is Brandon okay to sit there? Chief has a choice to make. Either yes, I'm allowed. Now maybe I've worked the next day, which makes him hesitant, because now I'm going on 18 hours of steady work. I'm going to go home, get minimal 4 hours of sleep, and have to come back to work the next day. So he may be hesitant. Maybe he won't. But 18 is the absolute limit he's allowed to permit. 18 is the tops. So if that job's going to go for another 4, I can only sit there until 18. That's all he can permit. And then it has to get called out to somebody else. So at that point, Mac
So it would be better off if he calls from the beginning.
So there's no real,
right, which is what we always try to do.
there's no real penalty on you for going 18.
As long as I checked with my OIC and did all the right things and wasn't just sitting there, then yes, absolutely.
Okay, so so you're not working, you're off.
Okay.
They call you in and they say the job is only going to take 4 hours, and you decide to take the job.
Right.
The job lasts 5 hours.
Okay.
You're going to bill them for 8. What's the
Yep.
rationale behind that? Is it because you want a full day's pay?
Right. Again, a lot of the things that were happening was on the day off that, yes, many spouses work or don't work, and it's based on, okay, are you going to have overtime or not have overtime? We don't have second jobs. We rely, a lot of the second jobs are the overtime. So if Sean's going to tell his wife that, yeah, I have an overtime job scheduled, I'm going to be going into the overtime job, you have the kids today. Or maybe she also has to go to work and they now need a babysitter for the kids, okay? To be told that we're working until completion, you assume, okay, that's going to be an 8-hour day. So to go in and only get paid for 5.5 hours of work, for example, seems like I donated a lot of time. My wife either took off or we had to pay for daycare for the day, and now I'm only getting paid for 5.5. So yes, the rationale there was
Brandon,
a
if
full
somebody
day's pay.
calls you on the free time and say, I have a 4-hour day, 4-hour job,
Right.
you're not gonna take it?
Calls me on my free time. Oh, so they have a 4-hour job basically, and I'm off.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. If PSE&G says I have a 4-hour job, United Water says I have an 8, I'm taking the 8.
If there are none, it's just a 4-hour job.
Right.
And basically, what I'm saying is, if somebody takes a 4-hour job
Yep.
in the free day, they still have to pay the same thing for the babysitter, for the wife, for the mother-in-law, for whatever it is, and they get a 4-hour pay. But if they have a 4.5-hour, they still pay the same thing, mother, babysitter, and everything, but now they want an 8-hour day. So what I'm saying is, this arbitrary thing, yeah, I'll take a 4-hour day, or I take a 4.5-hour day, becomes now a question that we have to think about. Because a
Okay.
4-hour out of, coming from home,
That's a discussion we can have amongst ourselves.
Exactly.
I think, does anybody else have any questions for the representatives from the PBA?
I have a concern, and that is, public utilities and all, I have no problem charging them the 8 hours and all. Like you said, they probably go over and all. It's just the non-profits, and I'm not talking JCC here, it's other non-profits.
But
So I have a concern that, is this something even affordable? That's what I'm,
well, the
if the
JCC,
need arises.
the JCC has signed off on this, but more important, the sense I got, and I didn't go further than the JCC and the Board of Education. They're both telling me that what they're asking for is simply the going rate that other communities are getting. For example, if you go up to the JCC or go to the Board of Ed, or you go past a public service job on the street, you're just as likely to see a cop from Englewood or Cresskill as you will from Tenafly. And what I'm being told, I haven't checked with any of the utilities because I wouldn't know where to go, is the officers from Tenafly are not getting paid what the other officers are getting paid. There doesn't seem to be any resistance or concern from the J or from the Board of Ed on this. And I had 3 conversations with Yaz at the Board of Ed, and I've had 2 conversations with Jordan Shanker at the JCC, because I wasn't going to sit here and look at this without confirming with them that they signed off on it, which they did.
yeah, we all understand the
Okay,
JCC.
Yeah.
So if you have nothing else for them, I'm going to thank them for coming in.
One quick question, do you get called a lot for like church festivals, fetes, or, fairs or something like that?
Actually, as I told the mayor, I've done the exact breakdown and everything. I looked at the 2015 and 2016 years. There's only about, I don't want to misspeak, so that's why I'm going to use the word about,
Okay.
because I do have the paperwork in my mailbox. I did not bring it with me. I can happily go get it. But it is about 6 jobs that did not fall into, that's the entire year for 15, and we'll say 6 for also 16. So a total of 6 jobs regarding the non-for-profits that fell into a period of time which was not 4 or 8 hours, okay? Out of the total jobs that we were hired for, only 6 for each year, and it was because they either hit the 5 or 6 hour mark. So if it's the 5, it can easily be adjusted to the 4, and we're happy taking the loss on that. The 6 can go either way. If you want us for the 8, understandable. If you don't, we're not holding your feet to the flames that, oh, well, we really think you should go for the 8. I'm not selling anybody anything.
No, I
If they want to
understand.
fall back to the 4, happy to do the 4. The JCC, for example, staggered it for the Rubin run. So they're doing 4 hours from 7 to 11, okay, and with 4 officers, and then from 8 to 12, they're doing 3 officers. Very simple fix. It was a way around the 8-hour. Happy to accommodate for them. Something like that is easily accomplished. We're not holding anyone's feet to the fire.
You have discretion.
Absolutely, and I've
Oh, so
spoken
this is
with
not
everyone.
like something absolutely this
Right,
is
right.
it or not.
Right.
They can.
They can work
there's
it.
room to work
I don't
on.
want the representatives of the PBA to
Yeah.
take this the wrong way.
No,
But
I'm
if
just.
we were to approve this, and we get a whole bunch of complaints from
Yeah,
the Presbyterian Church or the community church,
Yeah,
we can always readdress it.
We
And,
can.
and we
Any
can think
amendments
about
to the
how to
order,
do it.
we certainly wouldn't want to do it unilaterally without talking to the PBA, but the point of the matter is, for many years, this ordinance didn't exist.
Yeah.
And it was a combined effort of the PBA and the governing body at that time to put this in paper so that there would be a much lighter possibility of any issues coming up where somebody comes and says, why did you charge me this? And we didn't have an ordinance to point at.
So, Brent, I'm sorry, just to ask a question, because I'm trying to think of something that might be easy for everybody. If we put blocks of 2, would it be something that we can, because that's what, rather than put 4 of them beginning, boom, for a half an hour, we're trying to think of something that would be,
Absolutely not,
all right,
is
well,
the answer.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Don't you think that the way you drafted it, the new way, would discourage officers from wanting to work 8-hour jobs?
What?
Oh, okay, I'll give you a concrete example. If you were offered a job under the new arrangement to work for 5 hours or 8 hours, which one would you take?
Hoping that I can get out early. Understandable, yes, I see the point you're trying to pitch.
You made $152 an hour working at the 5-hour job, but only $95 an hour working at the 8-hour job.
Yes, but what you're not entitled to is how all the jobs are called in. It is 8 o'clock until completion. They don't give you 8 until 2, for example. So there is no 5-hour jobs anymore. It's 8 until completion. It's the utilities company way of working around phrasing things where you're guaranteed to get an 8-hour job, because no companies do that anymore either.
Keep in mind, I don't think anybody at this table is that concerned about the
No,
utilities.
not at all.
They can
Not at all.
It's
They
not
can
the
well
churches,
afford
It's the
it.
churches and.
Right, so-
It's really the churches and the
the
non-profits.
non-profits.
So if
people
it
in
goes,
town.
again, so if it goes back for the non-for-profits, as I just said, we're more than willing, and I have been more than willing, to accommodate them in any means necessary. For example, staggering the 4-hour blocks. If you only want one officer for 6 to 7 hours, then yes, it's hard. There's nothing to stagger there. So you kind of got to make a choice. Okay, we're content having him there for 4, or we'll do the extra to go to the 8, and he'll be required to stay the 8 because, assumingly, they're not going to cut him early at a 5 for the non-profit. They're going to make him stay and do the 8, which is everyone is fine with.
Right.
John, did you want to answer?
We've had a relationship between the PBA and we're calling them nonprofits for much longer than this council has sat, much longer than I've been here. The rate's been, in 15 years since I've been here, went from $50 to $60 an hour for high school jobs and everything like that. It's supposed to increase, I would say, twice, but our current leadership in the PBA never really got the ball rolling with it and didn't do anything about it. We've never had a problem, or seemingly never had a problem. It's not that complicated of a thing that the council needs to convene over this and think about it. It's an antiquated price, it's an antiquated billing system. That's it. We're not protecting nonprofits and we're not gouging them. We barely work those jobs anyway. They're just not around like they used to be. But we've done this on our own for a very long time, and there's never an issue and never a complaint.
Tony?
I fully concur, actually, and I think, I don't know why we're going to sit here and deliberate on this, because it really makes no sense. I mean, it's been a long time since they've asked for an increase, and it's not, listen, if you want the services of our police department, you gotta pay. That's it, end of discussion. I mean,
Dan, did you have something?
No, it's
Pat, Paul?
No, I was going to say, I feel similarly. We approved an increase to 95 for regular jobs. This is to update the books. I'd rather have our guys get those jobs than to see Cresskill Police and
Why
Alpine.
is Chris?
you say, you see Cresco and Engel a lot.
Why?
Because
I'd rather our
because
guys get the job.
They don't, under the system that is in place, they don't get as much as the Cresskill people get. They go and do other jobs, or they don't do jobs at all.
So you're saying that they
looking
don't choose to go there?
Yeah, they're looking for the going rate.
So they don't choose to
Well,
go. Where would they go then?
In many, no, I'm sorry, I don't mean they go elsewhere, that was a mistake.
What's the?
But
They'd rather
look,
not
in
do
all
it.
fairness, we are a small department, as is Cresskill.
Yeah.
And there are times when we just don't have somebody who's able to volunteer for a job. But, they're just looking for the going rate.
No, we understand
That's
that.
all.
I'm trying to understand why is
Right.
Englewood
Well,
getting
this-
more.
I guess they.
Well, Englewood has the biggest
They have a big police
department in the area.
I guess
They
then
charge more, their product costs more. It's just the
So why
cost
would
of the
they,
product.
just explain me, if I'm a product manager that buy the product, why would I buy the highest product price?
Nobody else is
That's
available.
No, because
said
they're not
they wanted
signing
a
up for
police
them.
officer, the police officer comes and they dictate what they get paid.
I mean, but why don't you come?
Because the price is not right.
Because I might be working. I
Okay.
might be working, I might not want to lose my
So
spot.
is there-
I'm answering your question. I might not want to lose my spot on an overtime list, because if I say no to a job,
Yeah.
I go to the bottom of the list.
So,
So, I'm not done yet.
yeah, okay.
So if I say yes to a $60 an hour job, the next day I'm gonna lose out on an 8-hour job where I'm getting paid $95 an hour. So it's not in my best interest, whether it's nonprofit or not, or a feel-good situation, for me to take that job.
So that's why they give it to the
If we
Englewood.
cannot fill it with our manpower, it goes to Englewood.
So in the pecking order, they call you first.
They
The
always
town of
call us.
Tenafly, yes.
So
Whatever
they
town
call
they're
you
in, they call
first,
first.
and if you cannot do it, or nobody
We call
Is willing
another
to do
department.
it.
is willing to do it, they go and call other
I
departments.
say we call them.
You call other departments.
So it's our,
And they
res-
call us too, as well.
it's our responsibility to make sure that every job in our town is filled.
Let them get it.
Yeah.
Follow-up question, real quick. Will the, where'd it go? Flat fee for the car rate and the administration, the
Set by
fees,
you.
Yeah, that's ours.
but we can make it,
I'll start putting that towards a car.
we'll work on it.
You guys, you
Yeah, I'll
guys
figure
can
it
do
That's up-
whatever you
no.
want with that.
Right, right.
Yeah, all right, I don't have
Thank God
to.
the cars are,
Which the administration fee with the block, you'd be making extra money on too. Not that I'm sure that was on the top of your
No, but
mind.
it's like if it's a
Yeah.
4-hour block, 8-hour block.
Right,
You
you'd
don't
be
match-
making
make
it
it match.
consistent
I have
for
no
you.
objections.
We have no question.
You have
Let's
no
vote
objections.
on this and let's get it
all right,
done.
so we'll just put it on the,
Yeah,
on
we
the
have-
next
Let's put it
thing
for
to
a vote.
approve.
Yeah, for
Okay.
approval.
It's, you know, pound of flesh and we move on.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate
Sure.
speaking with you. Thank you, Mayor, for having us.
Thank you for coming in.
Boy, that was complicated.
Okay,
That was the easy one.
So that's being listed for introduction at the next meeting?
yes, please.
Can you just have-
Planning board recommendations to the LDR.
Car fee in the block.
Any questions on that?
Yeah. Basically,
Mayor, don't
this,
you know by now?
yeah, don't ask. You don't want to get it, don't ask.
All right,
Okay.
thanks. I'm glad to see there's no questions on the, I mean, the easiest one is the building coverage, okay? I find it, the explanation in here to be relatively self-explanatory.
Okay, so here's the, because I've been through this Board of Adjustment, all this stuff. There are two measurements you do. One is the building plus whatever you have raised and all kind of, basically enclosed by railways. But the second one is to make sure that you don't put pavers all over the place and you don't pour concrete all over your property, which is neither basically enclosed by patio or so, and you create still the existing environment. That's why the second one was in, and it was one of the very powerful things that we used when we had people that want to do a patio that would cover the entire backyard. It didn't have rails, it didn't have anything, but it was basically covering the whole property. So it was a big difference between what the first one was, which is the railing, eaves, bay, and similar projection, and which were raised, versus the flat ones where you can put pavers and concrete. And we wanted to take out of that so people don't.
Let me read two paragraphs, and this is one of the, I know I'm old-fashioned, I'm the only one with a book, but I like having this in front of me. It's,
Yeah.
to me, it's much easier to
I'm with you
reread
on
something
that, by
2 or
the
3
way.
times if I have to, before I understand it, than to scroll. The mayor and council in 2011 adopted changes to the Land Development Ordinance, the LDO. The changes included the establishment of impervious coverage for residential lots, which is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
The definition of building coverage should have been modified along with those changes. It was not. And this is the engineer admitting that we made a mistake, that we weren't as thorough as we should have been. The current definition of building coverage includes patios and decks in excess of 5% of the lot area as building coverage. So patios and decks are included in building coverage. This is a method of controlling the rear yard coverage of a lot.
Yes.
But you're
The
talking about.
impervious coverage of a lot includes patios and decks and controls the entire coverage of the property. So the inclusion of patios and decks in building coverage, as well as impervious coverage, is a duplication of the coverage restriction and should be deleted from the definition. So to me, that clarifies it and makes sense. We're actually charging people twice for the same patio or deck. And as much as I appreciate what you're saying, we don't want too much impervious coverage,
Exactly.
but we're not changing impervious coverage, we're just taking it out of building coverage, so it's not charged twice.
To the building, but we continue
It
to keep
stays
it.
in impervious
It
coverage.
stays-
Okay, as long as it stays, because they have it to, I don't have a problem.
Okay. Anything else?
So we done with this.
Landmark decision for 89 and 93 Highwood Avenue. I applaud our HPC. Anybody from the HPC?
Yes, we have someone else here, but he had to
Okay,
step out.
I applaud them for, we kind of toasted them a little bit in the past for being a little too passive. So they really, I don't know how you folks feel about these two homes, but they really are special homes. And I appreciate the fact that you're moving forward on this. I thought the report was extremely thorough.
The history was
Beyond my
fascinating.
need to know. And anybody have any questions on this, either the reports or the process?
Yeah, one question. Were the owners in
Yeah, my
agreement?
My question too.
They've come to our meetings. They are not opposed to the idea of landmarking. They were concerned, they had questions. They spent a good deal of time with us.
There was a hearing, as I mentioned last time, a formal hearing, which was something new in that it was the first time really that a hearing was held where property owners that had not come forth hand in hand with the HPC
Well,
attended.
Would either you,
So there
Paul,
was a forum.
or Karen basically give the definition of this public hearing
Yeah.
and give us a little history? Give us one or two examples, if you can, and maybe, I don't know if either of you could do that, where public hearings took place in the past and the results of those public hearings. For example, did we ever have a public hearing on 53 Knickerbocker? Did we ever get that far?
No, we did
Okay,
not.
but some of the, one or two of the other public hearings within your experience?
Well, we have a public hearing in every case because it's
Right.
required by the ordinance.
Yeah.
So typically what would happen is, and what's happened in the past is we've had homeowners come to us and ask for a designation of their properties. And what we do first, of course, is study the property. We've actually had two cases where homeowners came to us and after studying them, we actually couldn't designate their houses because they did not meet the criteria that are set out in the ordinance. But we always have a hearing, and in the case of 20 Forest Road, that was the one that we landmarked previously. The homeowners were very much in favor of it, and they did not come to us first, we went to them. But when we went to them, they were extremely excited about it. They came to our hearings. They didn't really, they didn't present any new information because the information had already been collected and researched and assembled in a report. I'm trying to think, you have Peter Linus Court, which you just did. That's another case where the homeowner, who was a previous member of the HPC, but it wasn't something he had pursued earlier. I think probably because he felt there was a conflict of interest. He was on the HPC.
Yeah.
I would argue that whether it is truly a conflict of interest, but in any case, that was another case where there was a formal hearing. As I said, there's always a formal hearing.
And by the way, since this is recorded, Karen Noose is the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. Some people may be watching on TV and not know who you are, so.
And I have with
This
me
goes for
Marion-
everybody. If you have a title or something, when you speak, let
certainly.
people know who you are.
I've been a member of the HPC since 2006 and have been chairman for the last 2 years. I've lived in Tenafly since 1997 in a house that is historic, but was not landmarked when I bought it, and I requested landmarking of the house, and which I was successful in having done. And that happened to occur before I became a member of the HPC. I have with me Mario Turci, who has also been a member. Both Mario and Mike Barone have been long-term members of the HPC, and both live in houses that are landmarked. In both of their cases, they actually sit within historic districts. But in those districts, their houses are considered contributing structures of that district, which means they are the historic homes of that district.
So Karen, to go
yes.
back to the question, you had a hearing and the owners were over there.
Yes.
There is a question, you said they were not opposed, but they have questions. Does it mean that they are in agreement, or are we gonna have now arguments with them. And we
No,
try
I
to.
don't believe you'll have arguments. In fact, Mr. Farley is very, he's the owner of 89 Highwood, and he is supportive of the idea of
Okay.
designation. The reason I'm hesitating about 93 is because they came to the meeting, they had a lot of questions, they seemed very supportive of the meeting. I know they're trying to make some changes to the house, and those happen to be changes that would normally require a certificate of appropriateness. So I fully expect them to support the designation. I know that they're very intent on keeping the house historic.
So Peter, what's the process?
Well, I was going to, I'd rather than either Paul or Karen, once again, where do we go from here?
What I understand is normally you refer this back to the planning board for review,
Okay.
and they make an assessment, and then they bring it back to you, and then you all have your formal debate about it.
I believe, now, when it comes back to the council, after the planning board, I would assume the planning board will recommend going forward with this. There's another public hearing, is there not? Because there's an ordinance required,
Yes.
which requires a
Yes,
public hearing. And since nobody else brought it up, I'll bring it up, because I lived through it, and probably was one of the toughest parts of my experience as mayor, the public hearing for Park Street. And in this particular case, what made it difficult was, because it was, we were considering making Park Street a district, there were about 15 or so houses, I think it was an even number of houses, because the homeowners were split exactly 50-50 as whether or not to designate the street as historic. And it was, the public hearing was, it was a great example of democracy, but at the same time, it really left the council in a tough spot, because it was, the opponents and the supporters were 50-50. So it was an extremely interesting experience, especially since I had to cast the deciding vote. But in any case, hopefully that won't happen here. I think anybody that looks at these houses will realize the worth of saving them for the future. And, I don't think the town, normally at these public hearings, you get the homeowners.
Absolutely.
And maybe you get some preservationists that see the value in what we're trying to do. So it's not going to, the only tough time is if the homeowner is opposed to it. And this doesn't seem, hopefully this won't be the case here. And like I said, the homes are gorgeous.
And I might add too, at some point, I think it's valuable to think about how you feel if there is some opposition from the homeowner. Are we always going to let individual homeowners make a decision about whether a historic home should be saved for the welfare of the entire community? And I'm not posing an answer, I'm posing a question, and that's something for this
What we need
body
Very
to
valid.
consider.
And we should consider that, but we just wanted to know the information.
But what we really need here is answers and not questions.
Yeah.
But this is a question that we get at this table all the time. The rights of the individual property owners versus the rights of the community, whether it's trees, whether it's impervious coverage. Fences, exactly. So it's we hear you. And I believe the sentiment with the planning board is normally very positive when it comes to preservation. So we hope that this is going to be a process that finishes in success.
If I could just add, one of the main concerns that most homeowners have, if they do have a concern, is that what will it do to their property value?
Right.
It's never,
That's exactly.
I have to apply for special permit through the HPC. That's really not an issue, because we're pretty liberal when it comes to that stuff. It's really, what does it do to their value? And we try to educate them that it actually, as far as we're concerned, and the information that we have and the research that we've seen, it actually improves the value of those neighborhoods. So it's our job to really convince them, and it's not just our job, but I think as a community, when there's opposition, is try to really inform everyone what the real issues are, with these historic districts, and that's what we try to do.
Well, whenever people describe Tenafly, especially real estate brokers, etc., one of the features of this community are the historic districts. And we should all be proud of them, because if you drive down Serpentine or you drive down some of these other streets that are districts.
Magnolia,
Magnolia.
on the other side of it.
No, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
It really is.
absolutely.
And, we've seen some examples in the last few years where despite the best efforts of the HPC and in many cases individual elected officials, we have been unable to save parts of our community that I think are now gone. And it's, like mini Penn stations. So-
Just if I can add one thing that often is an issue that your constituents bring up to us is the cost to maintain these historic homes. Just the workmanship alone on my home, 54 Magnolia, is intricate.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, in most cases, you need an artisan, not a regular carpenter to do work. So, one thing that I've been thinking about, and I think that because these are already designated districts, and it's an investment for the town, I think the mayor and council should consider looking at possible tax abatements for these districts. I think if you did have a tax abatement for Park Street district, there's a potential that you probably would have gotten a consensus from the home ownership on that street, and probably wouldn't worried about the effects of cost.
Well, keep in mind though, if you do a tax abatement for one street,
Yeah.
that street might
I'm
be.
talking about district.
No,
Yeah.
Park Street was one street. You may get the support of the homeowners that live there, but you may
That's
have a
right.
little opposition from the rest
The
of the
entire
town.
town then you
Oh,
go,
it's an investment.
it goes up in
Except
flames.
we are hearing that even people who live in modern houses are very upset when they see the older houses
We are
they
all.
came to Tenafly for disappearing.
Well, everybody wants to
And
be the last
so-
person to build a new
And
home.
with the number of houses that are being replaced and their ratables are going up, I think it would more than offset whatever abatement that you give to the 40-odd houses that are landmarked in this town. So
Thank
it's
you.
something to consider.
Thank you very
Alright,
much.
so, we move on to.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to East Clinton traffic. So to bring you up to date, as many
Peter, don't
things.
we have to make a resolution over here to forward it to
Can I
the
interrupt
planning
real quick
board?
before they
No,
leave?
we just, Lisette, don't we just ask the planning board?
Innis Road, before they leave, I have a quick question.
All right, Karen, before you leave,
It's on their old business, but while they're here.
let's, with the consent of the council,
Yeah.
move to old business, Innis Road gates.
Oh, okay.
While you're here,
Let me just, Mike, they're gonna discuss Innis Road gates.
Oh, okay.
Mike has worked extensively on this project.
well,
Oh, okay.
the reality, it's very simple, what Lisette has put here. Apparently, these gates are not eligible for some of the grants we were looking at. However,
Why is that?
the people in our finance office are looking very hard
Why is
at
that?
trying to find some money for this project.
Excellent.
Great.
All right.
Sorry?
However,
Oh.
if it's within your purview to get designation for these gates, you never know in the future, it might be worth getting
I
it
am
done.
working on that, and we've actually talked to people in the State Historic Preservation Office to see what it would take to get something called a determination of eligibility, which means it's a determination of eligibility for the state register. So a lot of times for these grants, you don't have to actually be registered, you have to have a statement that you were eligible for registration. So we're working on that. It's a bit of a long shot for several reasons, which I won't go into now, but I don't actually have the details with me, but I have an email at home that explains it in great detail. But it doesn't mean it's impossible, and that's something we are going to work on, so that we can set ourselves up for grants in the future.
And the cost to repair them, ballpark?
Well, right now, we only have a quote from an artisan from France, who actually worked.
He's French, and he's from
French, and-
Patterson.
Just
He's
to
from
give you-
Patterson.
So do we have to pay them in euros?
No, we don't.
No, we're not.
Just to give you a point of information, they actually started their business subsequent to the renovations of the Statue of Liberty. They actually worked on the Statue
They
of
were
Liberty.
they were
Do
brought
work.
here from France to work on the
The
torch.
number from them was 25,000?
No, that's the 70,000.
That's
Wow.
70,000. So that only includes the work that needs to be done to restore the gates to their previous luster, okay? But we don't have a quote yet for the columns. The columns are severely deteriorating also.
Those are brick, right?
Just
Yeah.
Well, yes, and they don't look like anything like the old photograph right now. Paul, if you could just share what they were previously, the columns for the Innis Road gates.
Yeah, well, they were once upon a time old sandstone columns that, yeah, because those were the gates leading directly to an estate that was just beyond them. The current Cotswold, or what somebody will call Glen Miller Estate, is set much further back. That was actually a knockdown and a rebuild done in the 20s. So they moved the columns a little bit to accommodate Innis Road becoming a street rather than just a driveway. And so when they moved those columns, they changed them to a brick face. But the gates are original. They'd have to be carted away for three or 4 months to do this job by crane, because
There's a
it takes a
workshop
long
in
time.
Powers.
Yeah.
Well, I think the way things are, we're gonna probably put this in abeyance until we get some grants.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be.
Seven-
Well, Matt, you
70,000.
said you had a handyman that would do
I
it for
do
what?
it, and $50 or how much they charge us,
No.
yeah.
We'll look for some money for this.
And then it would look like $50.
Yeah, of course, of course.
time-wise, I
No,
think
but once
we're
again,
in good shape.
this is part of, when I give tours of Tenafly, I always take them through these gates. And even though the estate is long gone, these gates are evidence of what once was. And this would, and being, I know, Paul, who owns these? Do we?
Yeah, the borough owns
The
the
borough,
gates.
yeah.
The borough
So they're
owns them,
considered part of the right of way.
So I think this is something that we need to
Yeah.
protect in some manner. But, obviously, money is an issue here.
What's our,
So-
We're not
That's-
aware that there has ever been a
Just,
project,
open space, right?
anything
That's it.
done to the gates to refurbish them.
No, I'm
And
sure
so
there
in the
probably hasn't
sense, in the sense that we've gotten away with not doing anything for many,
Well,
many
it-
years, and now it's coming due.
Just a question, Karen, and just to show how cheap I am. Besides this French fellow who is an artisan and he was brought from France, is there anybody else that can look at that the committee would be satisfied?
That's a great question, and I'm gonna let Mike answer it,
Yeah.
because we have spent 3 years trying to
Okay,
get
all
somebody
right,
to
well,
come
3
to
years, we got 5
Tenafly.
people.
That's the answer.
Yeah,
The
that's the
answer is right there.
The issue there is that no one will come without paying.
No question.
Yeah, a fee. And the cheapest fee we got, Reno Denise had someone from Closter say he can do for $1,000 just to come and look at the game.
And look at it.
$1,000 just to come and look.
Yes.
Whoa.
And that was
And
somebody
that's
who
only if it's
actually,
4 hours. If it's 5 hours,
and that was somebody that actually even would follow up on a conversation with us. We can't tell you how many dead ends we came to before we even thought we had somebody right there.
historic
closer.
preservation is not an easy business.
No, that looks
In
like
fact,
it.
While you're here, one of the things I would like to do in the near future is arrange a meeting with representatives of your commission and the police department and Borough Hall. Maybe Paul would join me to talk about Roosevelt Monument and the security needs, because I'm reading your emails about the continual vandalism there. Obviously, you don't want to wall it off, which is an answer,
Cameras.
which is a 1950s answer. But we have to do something. We have to instill in the people that walk through that park that this is just not something that they can
No.
mistreat.
We have to do
Because
that.
I talked to Bob about this a few years back. I think you make it too nice to vandalize. You just make it a different style of park. You put whatever, flowers, lights.
Well, I think
You
this
make
is
it too
something
nice to
that
vandalize.
will be a future Bergen County open space request,
Grant,
because
yeah.
it is designated, it is historic, And
It's
we-
also one of a kind, it's
we
the only
need
monument
to
on
make
the
it a
street.
bigger project than maybe
Right.
we've done in the past, where we take the environment around it
Right.
and add that
Make
to the
it-
project and make it something so good that the county will recognize it and give us some money. And then maybe we do a fundraiser and get some more additional money. But that's a special place.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, as nice as the monument is, and is, despite the efforts of our DPW, which, you know, is stretched thin in all fairness, the surroundings
Yeah,
are
surroundings.
terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you can't grow grass under these trees, then we have to do something else.
Yeah.
But we need to treat that the way it's deserved, a national monument is deserved to be treated. It's really a special place.
Is there any
Looks
chance,
great.
just a question, that we can ask one or two landscape architects to present some plans? And if we can allocate a few hundred, maybe thousand, just to see a few plans, to see what would take to understand to do that.
I will say, you know, we actually have located the lighting designer that did the lighting on the Englewood Monument. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but
Yes.
it's absolutely
The circle?
spectacular. I have a meeting with him this week.
Okay.
Our problem is that he will charge roughly $3,000 to develop a design that will include a bid list. And the HPC simply doesn't have the budget to pay for his design fee. I think $3,000 is really not that much as a first step towards accomplishing what,
I wouldn't
What
put a
you
lighting,
have
I
to-
wouldn't pay for a lighting plan there unless we have a security plan.
well, would
Yeah, and a
security light-
surrounding
It
plan.
would
total
include
or
security.
complex.
Well, if you ever
That's
come
what you
down
need,
Palisade Avenue from 9W, when you get almost to Engle Street, you're coming down that hill,
Yeah.
you can see that monument at night. It would
Yeah.
really,
It's very nice.
really is very nice.
The lighting plan is a security plan. That's all.
It
Well, you're right,
absolutely- it would
you're
be-
right.
It would be
Includes
both decorative lighting and security
Security.
lighting.
So-
And he was even starting, and I haven't had the meeting with him yet, he was even saying it's more than just about lighting the monument, it's about uplighting for some of the trees and creating a sense of space.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is what the mayor is suggesting, enhancing the entire landscape.
Area.
And one of the problems is that the plantings we put around the pond have gotten so tall, you can't actually see the monument from the street
No, you
anymore.
can't.
Yeah.
So even though it's quite close to the police department, it's completely screened from any observers. You know, the Little League field is one side, is now sandwiched between the plants and the new wing of the middle school, the Little League field and the skate park. It's
Yeah,
lost some of
the
its
police department
integrity
told us.
as
Right.
as a park.
To the next floor.
It was actually designed by a woman who was one of the first female landscape architects in the country back in the 1920s. She was a very well-known.
That tall grass
landscape
is there for the
architect.
geese, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the East Clinton Avenue traffic study. As you may be aware, East Clinton Avenue is not a safe street. It's not a safe street for bike riders, of which there are many. It's not a safe street for joggers, which unfortunately I never understand why people jog on East Clinton, but they do, or at least they cross the street. And it's not even a safe street for driving an automobile. And we've had some serious and fatal accidents on East Clinton in the last year. 2 people have died, one a bike rider, one a jogger. There's been a discussion. I know one resident in particular has been emailing the chief and myself. So basically, we do have the ability to lower the speed limit on the part of the road from 9W to the Greek church. Currently, it's 50 miles an hour, but it's not
Is
posted.
it? I thought it was less than that.
It's
not-
automatic.
But it's not posted, it's automatic, because there's no homes on that stretch.
Coming from 9W, you continue to have the county speed till you go through some sort of a development.
Oh, I didn't
So,
know that. I always slowed down.
We do have the ability to get that speed limit lowered to 35 miles an
I
hour.
think that's a good start.
In order to do that, we need an engineering study to give to the county so that they can proceed. The cost of the engineering study is estimated to be at $4,500. I think it's money well spent,
Yeah.
but the first question should be, where is it coming from? So, with your permission, I'd ask Lisette to ask our police chief and copy the engineer and Jewel or Bob Culvert as to, if we were to approve this, where would the money come from? Do we have money set aside for it? Can we find money to do this study?
Well, I wouldn't copy Mazer, because they don't know what.
You wouldn't copy who?
I wouldn't copy Mazer, I would send it to
All right, fine.
Rob, Bob, Joel, and Susan.
Okay.
Would we be able to get a grant for that?
Not for the study, I don't think.
Not for the study.
No?
I don't think
For
so.
the actual work.
Is it as a...
One of the things I've been pushing with the chief is, I don't know if any of you have seen these diamond-shaped signs
Yes.
that are solar-powered
Yeah.
with the lights
Flash.
flashing.
Yeah, that,
To me, that is probably the best traffic calming thing I've ever seen.
absolutely.
And I know they're gonna put something like that out here in front of Borough Hall where that crosswalk is gonna be.
Yeah.
It's not gonna flash 24/7, there'll be push buttons on each side of the street where if somebody wants to cross, they hit the button and the lights flash.
But where would you, how would you use them on East Clinton?
Well, I'm not, I'm suggesting that, not the push button, the regular signs that just flash
Oh, okay.
24/7.
Yeah.
I've seen them in Englewood, and they really are effective,
Absolutely.
and they're not abrasive.
No.
And it's just a reminder, because speed limit signs, people are just so
Wait, wait.
used to them.
Advisory,
Okay.
those are advisory.
Next is Gun Violence Awareness Day resolution. I think this is something that, I know Max has worked on it.
Yeah,
You have a sample resolution there.
yes.
Bill, did you look at this resolution?
I did, yeah.
And? You have no
Okay.
problem with it?
It's fine,
Tony?
other than the fact that we already have the strictest gun laws in the nation.
I want, I'm not pleased with some of the things that are in here. For example, it says, whereas in 2016 through 2017, Bergen County homes, including homes in Tenafly, were burglarized by a 5-man ring carrying 2 illegal firearms and 3 large capacity magazines. I don't think that belongs in there.
Where is that, Tony? I'm sorry.
Second page,
Oh, our second
top
page.
of the second page.
Okay, first thing.
And the last whereas, it says training our police department has to be taken out of there because our police department is fully trained and they're the best of the best, so we don't need to put that in there. And also participate in gun safety exercises. The police department is not in the business of instruction and practice from teaching local.
Where is it, Tony?
That's
Just,
last
the
bullet.
last,
Last
the
whereas
last
under the
bullet
last
point.
whereas.
okay,
So I have to take that up.
I think, Tony, you're absolutely correct. We should eliminate the
The
three.
training, definitely, let's get rid of
Yeah.
that.
Well, I also agree that, that whereas in 2016-17,
Can go.
including homes in Tenafly, I think we can take
yeah,
it
we
out.
can
Take
take
it
that
out,
out,
take
sure,
it out.
absolutely.
So let's remove those 3 items, Lisette.
There are 2, I think, so
Well,
far.
the last one is the participate in gun
training.
safety
Okay,
exercises.
all right.
And I think we can move it forward then.
Can I just thank Sarah Nunes and Lauren Danton for working on this one? Lauren has written this one and spent a lot of, and she's not here.
She's
But,
not.
yeah, but I want
And
to,
thank her in abstention.
doesn't matter, they did a good job. I mean, a great job.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank you.
I'm going to say that the one thing I would like to say is, we are getting, it used to be that I do a proclamation or a resolution every couple of months, and usually they were for diseases that people sent in. We're getting involved in a lot of issues that are well beyond our borders. That's not to say that they're not worthwhile causes, or that anybody who would be against gun, well, there are people that are against gun safety, but fortunately, I don't think anybody at this table. We also did the embargo, which I support the fight against that. We've done a number of things.
Yeah.
I think we need to concentrate more on local issues, and encourage our representatives in Congress and in Trenton to take care of things that are well beyond our purview. That's not to say we have to turn a blind eye to anything, but it's getting to be that we're doing one a week, and it's,
Can I then send you the Word document?
Sure.
So you can take out the specific
I have
wording?
Lisette has it.
You already have it, okay. So we can vote on it next,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Next is correspondence. We got a letter or an email about somebody complaining about the sidewalk. My suggestion would be,
I already sent it to Bob Culver. He had the building code enforcement officer inspect the area. And it was determined that the sidewalk belongs to the the salon. And notice of violation in order to correct was already issued.
okay.
So they're
Perfect.
working on it.
Thank you, we appreciate so much.
You let them know? You let them
I'll
know.
notify them. He wrote to me, so I'll
Okay.
notify them. Thank you.
So it's in the hands of the code enforcement official?
Yeah, the property owner was notified that
Okay.
deficiency has to be corrected.
Perfect.
And I must say that our code enforcement officials are working very hard.
If we notify them?
No.
Anybody have anything else they want to add before we go into the chamber?
Question on a resolution,
Sure.
letter P,
P.
the shared services of the county equipment.
Mm-hmm.
That's a blanket, we don't have to, every time we need to borrow something, it's just
Yeah,
a phone call.
that's to
no
cover
more.
whether it's OEM equipment or DPW equipment.
Oh, okay,
That's for both.
okay.
Anything else, Shama? You had
For the good of the order, Mayor, I just want to talk about, and I had a word with Dan about this, about the Northern Valley Greenway project. And, I know there's a bunch of really dedicated volunteers working on this, but at the end of the day, the responsibility, the accountability is going to be really with the borough.
Well, you
To a
know,
large degree, because it involves safety issues, I had people wondering how the safety issues would be dealt with,
Ownership, maintenance, all the stuff.
all that stuff. There's going to be stuff we'll
Well,
be responsible for.
well, we're responsible for these things only if we take them on, okay? If we are going to allow this to be built in our borough, we need to be assured by some entity that maintenance and safety are
So that's
resolved.
then we
Well,
are accountable, because we have to take that responsibility. And I really think
Especially at
that,
the crossings.
Yeah.
especially at the crossings.
Crossing and all.
And so I really think that, I think we all got the note that Dan sent around.
Mhm.
There's a meeting with
Well-
CSX and all of that. I really think that the borough or a professional, or maybe Dan, maybe you have to do it, but somebody has to have a handle on what's going on.
First of all, you're absolutely correct. Somebody should have a handle on what's going on. However, there are these rails to trails all across the country. They go across roadways. This isn't a mystery. It's already been done everywhere. At some point in time, before this shovel goes into the ground, we're going to see some plans. These plans will be reviewed by our engineer, by our police department, and only with their approval and the approval of this body, whoever may be here at that
Yeah.
time, because I don't think it's
Yeah,
going to
whatever
happen
it is.
next
I mean,
week.
it is a council.
We're gonna be dead by then.
Only with that approval will it go forward. So you're
But
right.
do you really want to wait till the shovel goes in the ground before we, shouldn't we
If you'd
be a
like to
little...
volunteer to go to these meetings.
No, I think Dan is, Dan, aren't you the representative?
Yes.
No, wait a minute, he's the liaison.
Whatever, the council liaison?
Here's
Well,
our
right
representative.
now, the only person involved at this table is Dan.
Yeah.
Dan is the council liaison, and he will bring back to us, as he already has, what's going on. I don't disagree with what you're saying, I just think it's a little premature.
I'm just
Because
concerned
I
that
know-
if you're going, if
Well, if
people are
you're-
talking and
because-
negotiating with CSX and you and I...
CSX is not gonna build this. The only
No,
thing,
they're not, but
the only thing-
they still have to be in the process.
the only thing CSX is going to do is sell or give away
Yeah,
this, or lease this property.
yeah.
Once, and to me, I'm not convinced that's ever gonna happen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Whatever.
I'm on your
this-
side on
and
that one.
that's not minimizing the efforts of the committee.
Yeah.
But
However,
knowing CSX...
once CSX says they're willing to do this, I'm not sure, but I believe they lease this or sell it to the towns or to the committee.
Dan?
Depends on whoever
So I think,
needs to run it. So let's say because it's gonna run from Northville to Tenafly, the county's gonna be the agent, then the county would have to be the lead agent.
So
If
maybe you should talk to some, what about the county?
They're thinking about it.
Why don't we do this? Dan, you want to give a report
Think about it.
today? Or you have anything to say? You want to, I know Andrew is here, do you want, how do you, is there anything you want to present to the council tonight?
Not in particular, I mean, the Rotary, is that correct?
No.
Has met with, so just you two have met with CSX?
No, according to that report that you
Yeah, the
emailed, a
report.
whole group of people met with CSX.
Well, there were representatives of various towns. It's not,
Listen to
Yes,
this meeting
yeah.
was just Tenafly and CSX.
Where did it go?
Let me see, let me see where the, oh God, this it kicks you out all the
No,
time.
no, no. Don't
All right.
complain.
Participants in the CSX were Travers Molden from CSX, Christine and Andrew McCash, nobody else.
So Andrew and Christine are here, but I don't know exactly what you want at this particular moment. You brought up
I'm
concerns
just
about
concerned, I'm just
safety.
concerned that I don't think we
This is-
should take a total hands-off at,
We haven't taken a total hands-off. We have a liaison that's supposed to be, and I believe he's doing the job, bring back to us
Well, he was,
where the
unfortunately, he was
process
not
is
even
going.
invited. He was not even invited to that meeting.
Who wasn't?
Dan. He didn't even know about the meeting. The problem is, at the end of the world, if ever it's gonna happen and we're gonna be alive, we will be responsible for it. It doesn't matter how happen, it will be responsible for everything at the end of the day. So, not to have us involved in the initial negotiations will make us basically be presented with a plan that we might like or might not like.
and not have enough information.
And not have enough fingers in the pot while the cooking is taking place. And that's what I'm trying to make sure, that every time there is such a meeting, Dan gets invited, we get informed,
Information.
we can discuss it at the meeting over here. It's our town, it's gonna be
Well,
our trail.
I believe that, first of all, keep in mind there's 7 towns involved.
Yeah,
I don't believe you should expect Dan to be invited and not representatives of 6 other towns. All right, this initial meeting was a small meeting, just an introduction with CSX, and I don't believe it would have been productive to have 7 towns sitting in on this meeting.
Why?
Well,
but the question is why.
All those towns are
You know,
involved.
the question is, this process is gonna go on for 10 years, and I don't really feel like spending a half hour every week worrying about it. I think, you know, if it ever comes that this project is going to go forward, and the big question right now is not how are we gonna handle safety, how are we gonna handle this? The big question right now is,
The dollar.
can it happen?
I understand that, but
So
what I'm
when
saying
we-
is
when-
that
once we get past-
shouldn't we at least know what's going on?
All right,
I
so
mean, this
you know what?
report came about because I think Dan requested it.
So
No.
no, that's
That's what I just saw it.
That's not, that's not, you know, this is going to be a long enough conversation without inviting you into it. No, this was not, this really, I don't believe, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, had nothing to do with you. I think that it was Christine that reached out to CSX?
That's what I mean. I'm talking about this.
Or vice versa,
I'm sorry?
or vice versa.
Vice versa, CSX reached out to us for a tour.
Okay.
We had,
So,
the meeting was
all-
afterwards.
You know,
Dan should have been invited.
huh?
Then Dan should have been at least informed of it.
Well,
I mean, the CSX coming to look at that's important, Mayor. That's not just a small piece of the action. I think that's an important thing. And I think Dan should have been invited. If he can't make it, that's a different thing. But he didn't even know about it.
well.
I mean, I feel very strongly that at the end of the day, a council, the borough of Tenafly, whosoever sits at this table, is going to be responsible, is going to be
Yeah, at some
accountable,
point between-
no matter who
I'm not arguing
raises
with
the
you,
money.
but some-
So
and I'm-
it
I'm agree-
behooves us to be
I'm
the
agreeing
ground
with you
floor.
that at some point in time before the end of the day, but I think you're
Now,
being very
it behooves
premature
us to
about
be on
this.
the ground floor. I mean, I feel strongly about that. I don't know how the rest of the council feels.
I think that we
Well,
should
the
understand.
sense I'm hearing, only one or two people are speaking, is that
Speak.
the council would like our liaison to be informed if there's going to be meetings with CSX.
Yeah.
If you choose not to do that, you're going to be looked upon as a renegade committee with little support here at Borough Hall, and I don't think this project is going to go anywhere without the support of Borough Hall. So take it for what it's worth.
He was invited to the meeting,
Good.
the evening meeting.
Okay.
Good.
Did he come?
Everybody was invited to the meeting.
No, but that's the big meeting. I'm talking about CSX. I'm more concerned about them.
That was the CSX meeting with the larger
So
committee.
basically what went on this day is a couple of people were asked to give a representative of CSX a tour of the railroad, the line from here to Norwood. That was followed with a meeting in the evening with this representative, to which Dan was invited. So I'm not sure that shouldn't satisfy you right now, that Dan had to go on a tour from Tenafly up to Norwood. I consider it fortunate that we have two representatives from
Let's
Tenafly.
move on, Mayor. That's fine.
Okay, well, it's funny that we have to give CSX a tour of the railroad. I mean, that's the, sure, we're gonna tell them.
Well, there's a lot of irony there, yes. I don't dispute that at all. Okay,
What's next?
if that's it for the good of the order, I'd like to make a motion to go.
So I have I just want to say that I want to do an amendment to the agenda, so just add a short closed session on release. Of the, very short, very short.
Okay.
I just want to inform everybody on something and I have to ask.
Promise us it's
Okay?
short.
Before the end of the day, he wants to
Okay.
inform us. Motion to close the work session?
So
All
moved.
in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year, Dan, are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center. Salute to the flag, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barzalato? Councilmember Bash?
Councilman Bash, he's calling your
I'm
name.
here.
Councilmember Hayter?
Here.
Councilmember Park?
Here.
Councilmember Stefanowitz?
Yeah.
Mayor Russell?
Here. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following sets of minutes. April 4th, the closed session. April 4th, the work session. April 4th, the regular meeting. April 4th, the closed session.
So
April
moved.
13th, the special meeting. April 20th, the work session. April 20th, the regular meeting. And April 20th, the closed session. A motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Once again, thank you to the clerk's office for getting all these minutes out to us in a timely manner.
That's why I have carpal tunnel.
Revisions to the agenda?
Yes, actually, we're going to just add a closed session. That's a legal matter, attorney-client privilege to discuss the proposed new lease for the Tenafly Swim Club.
That's happening despite the fact that nobody else, no, it'll be short.
All this one.
Public comments, anybody like to speak? I'm going to go around the room once and, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Lauren Dayton, 15 Laurel Avenue. First, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for considering and hopefully passing the gun violence awareness resolution. While I do agree that it has not touched our borders, I do think that the state of New Jersey is looking and has acts currently in the Assembly and the Senate to change our current gun laws. The most important is that we would give reciprocity to concealed carry weapons, so that while we may not allow it in our community, another community right next door might come in with a concealed weapon, not be charged, and be able to come through our doors. So the second thing also is that they're looking to lower the standards to earn your gun license. And of course, we want people to be properly vetted to ensure gun safety and gun safety awareness. I want to thank you for recognizing June 2nd as Gun Violence Awareness Day, and to wear orange. And I'm here with Sarah Nunes, who is promoting it as well. Sorry. And I hope that our town, at least, while I'm not looking to eliminate any guns, but does make gun violence more aware in the community and encourages smart technology that is coming to market. And I know, Mayor, you're a proponent of that. And I also want to thank you for making our town a sanctuary city. I appreciate that.
We're not, we're a welcoming community.
Welcome.
But that's close
I've
enough.
given it a wink.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, Tom Giordano, 12 George Street. I'm here as a board member of Tenafly Little League. Have a minor problem at Sunnyside Park that over a month now hasn't been resolved. There's 3 sets of bleachers that were moved last fall for soccer to use, which happens every year, and I tried unsuccessfully to have the bleachers moved back where they belong for softball and baseball, and right now 2 of them in an unsafe place, not behind a fence. I don't know who to talk to next about which end to get this solved.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's a safety hazard down there.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on, stop. We can't just ignore this here.
Well, it hasn't been ignored.
Well, apparently it has been ignored for
Well,
months.
As of 3:30 today, the bleachers are unsafe.
It's a matter of opinion, okay? I brought this to Bob Culvert's attention numerous times. I was down there the other day, and the bleachers, with one exception, which...
Excuse me. 2.
You take a ride down there yourself and let me know what you think. There is a set of bleachers that's halfway between the girls' softball diamond and what used to be the minor league field where the snack bar is. It's underneath a tree. It's been there for as long as I've...
Yeah, there's been,
It's been there. It doesn't belong at any field. He's been asking it to be moved. It's not going to be moved. Okay, there's other bleachers that he was concerned about. They were they should have been set back further. They have been set back. But take a look yourself. If you think there's something unsafe, let me know or let Bob Culvert know.
Let me say that. There's 2 sets of bleachers down there now that moved for soccer. They were moved a little bit. They're not behind the fence. One team does not have a set of bleachers for the parents behind the fence because it's out behind third base where an overthrown ball could hit somebody. The other set of bleachers that in between the restrooms and the softball field, it used to be by the softball field, it was moved for soccer, so now they just moved 50 feet farther back under the trees next to a swing set and jungle gym, where they should be by a softball field.
Well, that set of bleachers has been there for several years. I remember people sitting there for the Safe at Home tournament.
Okay.
So
The other 2 are unsafe. If overthrown balls will hit people. They weren't like that last year. They were moved
all right, I'll
for soccer.
let Councilman Barzalata take a look. He's our emergency management coordinator.
You've been down there, Pete, and you
Yes.
think they're safe?
I think right now everything is okay.
Do you think they're safe?
Yeah.
That nobody will get hurt with the overthrown ball because the bleachers are not behind the fence where they used to be?
Okay.
You think that, unbelievable.
Yes.
Johanna Gambro, Ravine Road.
Nice.
I have 3 points I wanted to make, and they don't relate to each other. In the agreement about the municipal parking lot by the Tenafly Swim Club, which I'm glad finally happened, because the Board of Ed was using it for probably 90% of the time, and never paid a dime, as far as I know. They did the snow removal. And when the other club existed, we shared the cost of fixing it and taking care of it. Now, I understand that the Board of Ed and the borough will share 50-50. But the part that bothers me is the last whereas in the agreement. And it says, whereas, while the property is not presently needed for any other municipal purpose, the proposed lease agreement also grants the borough the right to recapture possession of the property if the same becomes necessary or desirable. In the other leases that we had with the borough, there were...
Who's we?
The Tenafly Swim Club, about what was going on, who took care of what.
You're speaking for yourself, though, not for the swim club, correct?
Well,
you haven't been authorized to speak for the club.
I'm in constant contact with them.
But you have not been authorized to speak for the club, correct?
Right, I'm not on
Okay,
the
so you're
board.
speaking for yourself.
But I am concerned about this.
Well, that's fine.
particular-
You have a right to be concerned if you're concerned. I just want to make it clear that you're speaking as a citizen, as a resident, not, you're not
And a
representing.
32-year member of the
That's fine,
club.
but you have not been authorized by the board of directors to represent them. I just want to make that clear.
What is your point?
The point is, you're speaking for yourself, not for the club.
It's not malicious, it's basically, you're not the representative, official representatives of the club.
No,
You bring
I
it
didn't
up
say I
on your
was.
own.
Well,
didn't say I was.
when you say "we," I just want to make it clear, I'm not picking on you.
What?
You have a right to say whatever you like. This is your time.
Between the
All right.
club. It's not,
It's a private club,
yeah.
and for 32 years, I have paid dues, along with everyone else who's been a member of that club.
Yeah.
So our dues developed the land and took care of our responsibilities. And the Board of Ed basically did very little, if anything. Now it is between the Board of Ed and the borough. And in all the other lease agreements, and that brings me to my second point, the lease agreements, I've read all of them over a period of time. I copied every single lease. I have them in a file at home. And in every one of them, there are dates of how long that lease lasts, agreements last. And it's very specific about everything.
And then every single lease says that the borough has the right to cancel on 6 months' notice, right? You all do.
Well,
I'm very familiar with the terms
Yeah.
of the lease.
well.
You all
that
said
brings-
that the borough has the right to cancel the lease on 6 months' notice.
I quite frankly don't remember reading that, but
Well, it
I have
does.
copied them. And when I went back to look through the file again, I was told that the file had been culled. It had been, for the purpose of getting rid of paper in the borough, that a lot of those, half of the file was missing.
I
And-
have all the leases, including the original leases back to the 60s, and the amendments. So,
But I don't understand why there aren't any numbers in here and things like that, like when does this end officially, and
there's a term in that lease.
what?
That has a specific term. The lease with the Board of Ed lease? The Board of Ed lease of the parking lot,
The parking lot.
yes, has a specific term.
In this,
10 years,
in this
isn't it?
document? This
So-
resolution?
Well, the lease itself,
That's not a
that's just
lease, that's a
that's just a resolution approving the lease. The lease itself has a 10-year term.
All right, have we seen that lease, the
Not yet.
public?
It's not yet.
That-
We haven't seen it either, so don't feel bad.
Well,
I
haven't
do.
seen the
We
lease.
discussed it.
We
didn't
discussed it.
see
final form.
Yeah, well, my point is that everything
Sorry.
was in closed session, and then all of a sudden, this resolution was presented
Oh, okay.
in here, we
All
went
right.
into the chamber, and it was passed before anyone had a chance to read it. And that's what I don't like, is the secrecy of it.
What's the
And,
secrecy?
The bottom line is that the lease that the Board of Ed now has over the parking lot benefits the Tenafly Swim Club, because whereas under the prior lease, the Tenafly Swim Club was responsible for maintaining it, and
50%
really
of it.
for the benefit basically of the Board of Ed. Now,
Which they didn't do.
now
I know.
the new lease says that the Board of Ed's responsible for maintaining it and has to allow the swim club to use it and not charge them anything. So I don't see how the Tenafly Swim Club could ever complain about something. It's a
Well,
major
it's not
neighbor.
exactly-
The Tennekill Swim Club is not
Not
complaining.
complaining.
Oh, okay.
Joanna is asking questions. This is a sweetheart lease for the swim club. They
Well,
could not ask for a better lease unless
They
we
get to
want
use it?
unless we want to pay them to use it.
And you don't have to pay anything.
I don't understand this contention here, because a lot of people in the club are very upset about it. And,
I don't know why.
There is absolutely no reason, this, like I said,
Because-
this is a sweetheart lease for the swim clubs.
Well-
They get the use of a parking lot
we haven't
that's
seen the
gonna be-
lease.
Well,
All right,
it's
so-
not public record yet. You will see it.
When?
So Joanna,
Says you have to file an Oprah
just,
request.
the
It
whole
is.
idea
It's
was
signed now.
to give the Tenafly Club the best possible terms and not to have any liabilities and
Well,
responsibilities.
in all fairness, that's not exactly true. The purpose of this lease was to put the maintenance of the parking lot in an entity that has the ability to maintain it. If anything, the swim club has proven they don't have the ability to maintain the parking lot.
I
Nobody's,
disagree with that.
well, they haven't.
I have photographs from 3 years ago,
They-
when the parking lot was beautiful. I watched.
3
I
years,
watched.
3 years ago, we were being told that the parking, and you were one of the people that said the parking lot was unsafe.
Yes, because, I'll tell you, I was down there when the machine, that looks a lot like that new ambulance out there, was clearing the snow, and it was the Board of Ed's machine. It was not a snow clearing machine. And it dug, I watched them dig up the parking lot.
Yes.
And that's how all of this macadam
Okay.
Jo-
well,
Joanna,
the long and the
it's to
short of it
the
is-
Tenafly's advantage, what we're doing here. The Board of Ed will have to maintain the parking lot, and Tenafly gets a free ride on that one with no maintenance, no charges, no responsibilities. So it's the best thing the Tenafly Club could have.
We have been threatened to have our property what we lease, taken over, and a community center built.
No,
That's
nobody
absolutely-
ever,
That couldn't be more than 100%.
nobody
inaccurate.
ever did that.
The only
That's
place
not
they
correct.
ever thought about a community center was at the other side of the parking lot. So where you're getting your information
No,
is
because I
totally
was at the
false.
meetings.
What meeting?
Here,
We
I
never
listened
talked,
to
we
it.
never talked about your swim club
All
being
right, let's
taken
move
over.
on.
Never,
Joanna, that's not.
This
Councilman Zinna,
no.
at
No.
5 meetings.
Nope, he
One
was
after the
referring
other.
to the other club, not yours.
Okay, so what you are mentioning is the fact that
You
we're
know,
looking at the
He
public.
said
Listen,
Tennekill.
No, if he said he made a
He made a
mistake.
mistake.
Max, please. We set aside 3 minutes for each person. I'm not holding you to a time limit, please move on. But some of what you're saying is so inaccurate, it doesn't belong at the meeting.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that Councilman Zinna really didn't mean it when he said Tennekill Swim Club.
Never,
He meant,
never.
because he said that he wanted to have it a continuous thing into Cresskill. Remember?
No, he said something else.
It meant
No.
something.
Joanna, never.
Let's move on.
It was-
Let's move on.
Yeah,
Your
don't
swim club will
worry.
be here as long as you guys can afford to
Yeah.
maintain the swim club.
All
Okay,
right,
where are we
the
now?
last point I wanted to make was a comment about the Greenway, and I heard a very different story about that, and that it would include playgrounds and all kinds of things like that. And if you say it's not going to happen for 10 years, that's another issue. But
So I didn't say that it's not gonna happen for 10 years, I just
I'll
said
be there.
it's not gonna happen immediately. It's a long process, and it's questionable whether any of us will be at the table if it comes to fruition. I mean, it just negotiating with CSX is a very, very difficult, drawn out process, and even if the negotiations with CSX come to fruition, then building it is another thing,
Yeah.
and you've got 7 municipalities involved. It's going to be a very, very tough process, which is why we have the 2 best brains in the town working on it, and they're going to be reporting to us on a weekly basis as the progress they're making. But
Okay,
I
my
wouldn't,
point-
I wouldn't
Mike,
be too
do I get
concerned.
to recapture all the time you've used my time?
Sure.
Here, the thing that bothers me is this, is that a lot of people I know moved to Tenafly because of the green, because of the trees, because the beauty of it. And scientifically, since I'm a math science person, it's well-known fact that green space is calming. It actually invites people to go in and shop. It's a scientific fact. And what worries me is that it seems always, like with the Nature Center, that we're trying to take so much of what we have that's green and change it into playgrounds and all kinds of things that take away the green. So when you say it's a green way, I want to be sure that it really is a green way,
We
that
want
that-
to do, we want to be
So do
sure
we.
too.
First of all, to set your mind at ease, I've been pretty close to what's going on with the Greenway, between Rotary and these meetings. I've never heard once about a playground.
Playground, yeah.
Second of all, if there's anything less green than abandoned railroad tracks, I've yet to see it. And to replace an abandoned railroad tracks with a bike and walkway,
if
I don't
that's all it is. But if
well,
you start putting playgrounds around.
Where is
no,
the
it's
playground?
nobody's intent to put playgrounds around. Now, if you have a green space and you have space for a playground, that is going to be the individual town's prerogative. We have plenty of playgrounds in this town. Right now, a project that gives residents an opportunity to bike or walk from here up to the New York State border and possibly beyond sounds pretty green to me.
Yep.
And in fact, if they choose to do things that aren't green, we're going to not allow them to call it a greenway.
Absolutely.
We are all
I agree.
committed, we all committed
We
to that.
appreciate your concerns, but in many cases, I don't know where you're getting your information, and, we'll stay the course. Hey, would you like to speak?
I won't take much more time.
Just your name first.
Sarah Nanis, I'm at 29 Kent Road, and I just want to thank everybody for considering the proclamation.
You're very welcome.
I had prepared a little something, but I don't know, I need to get into it, but just that it makes me feel really good, because for me, this debate isn't a political debate, it's just about protecting our kids and our families, and I'm grateful to see that everyone can work together to
Your
work on
thank you should wait until...
Well, you haven't signed it yet,
until
but that you're considering it, and that
rather than doing
yeah.
it 2 or 3 times where it loses its
Okay.
power. Present it, I'm sure it's going to happen, and that's the time to do it. And by the way, Lisette, when we have that final draft of the resolution, just pass it by the police chief for his comments, please. I don't know if he's seen it yet, but he should look at it. Okay, anybody else, public comment? I'm afraid to go down much further. Okay. We'll move on. And then, motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Move.
Thank you.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayter?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefano?
Yes.
Okay, public hearings, Lisette, would you like to
Yes.
do your thing?
The following ordinance is published herewith was first read by title only on March 28, 2017, and posted on the bulletin board of the lobby of the Municipal Center. Ordinance number 17-03, an ordinance to amend Chapter 35 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly entitled Land Development Regulations, and more particularly amending Section 35-722.2 entitled General Standards. Ordinance number...
Paul, would you make a motion to table ordinance 1704?
Would you like me to do them together?
I have to read all the titles first.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
No, that's just one. Ordinance number 17-04, an ordinance to amend Chapter 35 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly entitled Land Development Regulations, and more particularly amending Section 35-802.12 entitled General Yard and Setback Regulations. Ordinance number 17-05, an ordinance to amend Chapter 35 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly entitled Land Development Regulations, and more particularly amending Section 35-802.15 entitled Child Care Centers. And ordinance number 17-06, an ordinance to amend Chapter 35 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly entitled Land Development Regulations, and more particularly amending Schedule C, off-street parking space requirement schedule.
Okay, Paul, would you want to make the motion to table?
I'd like to move to table ordinance 1704. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayter?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefano?
Yes.
Okay, public comment that will be
That's the
heard.
table.
Just the table,
That's
17.
just the table, now we have
That's just the
to,
table, no.
now we have to
There's no
approve the
public
rest of
comment on
them.
table.
No, you have to have public comment first on the remaining ordinances.
Oh, first on the remaining 3, okay.
As I was about to say, public comment will now be heard on the following ordinances: 1703, which is general standards, 1705, which is child care centers, and 1706, off-street parking. Anybody care to speak? We'll close the public comment section, and Shama?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 17-03, 17-05, and 17-06.
Is there a second? Please call the roll. Thank you, Max.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayter?
Yes?
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefani?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask
So,
why
you know
we
something,
said we tabled
my-
the setbacks?
That's the one that the planning board didn't recommend.
On my agenda, there's no new business. Oh, yes, there is, I'm sorry.
There is some new business.
Yep. So that's, it's after committee reports. Okay, my favorite time of year. Committee reports. Dan, you have anything?
The CAP met Monday. They're preparing for the end of the year prom and project graduation. The programs are being implemented accordingly. They
Hold
had
on a second. Does everybody know what project graduation is?
We all had kids in school.
I was at
It's a great,
And he was at it, I guess.
great concept.
Predates me.
Yeah.
actually there'll be Sergeant Barnes, our SRO, has a surprise for the kids lined up for that action. A good one.
Okay. Sergeant Fox.
Detective Barnes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
The cottage party for the 5th grade parents whose kids are going into 6th grade was last Wednesday. About 35 parents showed up. They got
Nice.
a lot of information about the teen center.
So this was at the teen center?
That was at the room next door.
McCandless room?
Yes, McCandless room. Teen center, CAP representative was there, the counselors from the middle school and the high school, and Detective Barnes was also there, just to give the parents an update of what services and things are available for them, resources. Earth Day was 2 Saturdays ago. I was away for a wedding, but Mayor, you were there.
I was.
Got
A
married
little bit of
already?
a on and off drizzle.
Yeah.
They had a nice turnout.
It's always a good turnout, good event.
We were represented.
Yeah, our green team's really good on that. Carol does a lot of work. She's excellent with that. And speaking of Carol, her community garden's up and running.
I'm sorry?
The community garden is up and running.
Oh, yeah, I've been out there this year.
Back in
Folks,
season.
it's right out here. Take advantage of it on a nice day. Check it out.
Where is the waiting list?
With Carol.
Carol, okay.
Carol Hodges.
Well, you want to plant something?
Me too.
What are you planting?
Tomatoes.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't do that in your backyard?
Max, this is in Colorado.
Forget it. I'm not gonna go through personal issues.
What are you planting, Shama?
Some kind of rosemary or something like that. I just love that plant, so I thought that I would love to plant some
Well,
of that.
in that case, if the wait list grows longer, we might have to think about expanding the action.
Yeah, that would be a good.
Expand it.
But we'll see. It's a lot of work to maintain, apparently.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Dan, before you go into the next committee, I want to talk about...
That was it?
A question I have is, I saw an email from Carol
Yep.
about next year, it's theoretically Tenafly's turn to host Earth Day. And she was not supporting that at this time. I think that would be unfortunate if we skip our turn, but on the other hand, if we don't have the volunteers to do it, I'd rather skip it than do a poor job.
Poor job.
Right.
So would you bring back to us where you think that's going to go, speak to that committee, and, if there's
We
something
don't
we
have
need...
people willing to help, is that what it is?
Well, I don't know,
It's a lot of work.
I'm sure it is.
She is very involved and does a lot of work. I can't tell you that she's not getting help because I'm not close to the scene.
Okay.
But Dan, maybe you
So,
could...
I mean, it's multiple communities, and the lead town, usually either the borough administrator helps out, the DPW, their staff is all over the place setting up, clean up. So they plan about 8 months
It's a
in
lot of
advance.
Mm,
They know when Earth Day is going to fall on. They'll pick that date probably this year.
yeah.
They're probably going to start up now. I mean, she's
I'm
emailing
sure.
about hosting Tenafly.
Oh, it must be,
Wait, her folders.
I can believe
Big.
that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. I mean, hosting must be a different type of nightmare. But we'll see. I'll talk to her at the next meeting.
Did we approve the consent agenda?
Yes, we did.
We did.
Okay.
You were very good. You voted yes.
Well, I didn't know. I would have said no, but I missed it.
Okay, Tony, you have anything?
No.
I would like, just on the committee reports, I was going to represent Tenafly because Jewel is out. The Bergen County Open Space meeting yesterday, and I killed myself to get there. And when I got there, the building was locked. Apparently, there was a bomb scare, and I guess they didn't have any way of
Communicating?
noticing people, representatives from every community. But boy, I was annoyed, and so were a few other people that were banging at the door. I mean, the building was dark and obviously locked up. I understand they had a lot of problems because people were in the middle of the passport process and left their passports in there and could never get back in. Anyway, it'll be rescheduled. Shamla, you have any committee reports?
There was no Board of Adjustment meeting. The meeting that was scheduled was cancelled because they didn't have any new applications. I have a short report on the Chamber of Commerce. There is the Tenafly Dumpling Festival. It's to raise money for the Tenafly Middle School HSA and the Tenafly High School Service Clubs. $10 gets you a dumpling at each of these places.
One dumpling?
Dumpling
Could
each.
you read off the places? Just, I think they
Europe
deserve...
Cafe and Grill, Kinara Indian Restaurant, La Promenade, Tenafly Kosher Deli, Mandu Cafe, Mr. Wok and Sushi, Simply Vietnamese, and Tea Garden. That's a nice selection and nice.
Yes, it is.
They sound like good dumplings, so
One dumpling.
that's
And Christine, we appreciate your efforts because I know it's, you really go
And the other
overboard to
thing
try
is
and
the
get this
chamber
done.
has been talking about this for a while, and I think they put in a request for a vacancy maintenance ordinance for the town, where vacant storefronts shouldn't look decrepit, and which they tend to. So that is something they're requesting. I think they've sent something to Lizette. Have you got anything as yet?
I got it right before the meeting.
No, but they have sent it for
I
the
got it
next
tonight.
meeting. Yeah, you'll put it off to them. And that's about it.
Well, thank you. Max, you have anything?
Yes, the Senior Citizen Committee met this Monday, as a matter of fact, and was very, very lively. First, was introduced John Sullivan, who is the coordinator and the driver for the Hawthorne and another town, and he was hired.
Haworth, right?
Haworth. Both of them.
Harrington Park?
Harrington Park, yes, whatever. And he was hired for 3 months as a consultant to set up the bus program over here in Tenafly. And at the same time, it was introduced the new scheduler who was hired for scheduling the bus rides and so on. And a short introduction of the actual bus program was discussed, and what I ask is that the council be appraised and the new schedule of to be brought over here for the council to see it and discuss it and approve it. As a matter of fact, we need to approve that. Of course, I created some disturbance when I asked if the scheduler, who probably going to receive 2-3 calls a day, because 4 or 5 people are going to be going, if she can work in the time that she's going to be allowed it, but basically every day 4 hours, to support the Senior Citizen Center. And I was told that that's a lot of work that has to be, that person has to do a lot of work, so I don't understand the importance of the work. So I took it as probably I don't understand the whole thing.
Well, I think you made an interesting point. I think when it comes time, we'll follow through on that.
Exactly. The other point that I made, and of course I was received again with is in Harrington Park and Haworth, the actual scheduler is also the driver. So instead of having 3 people, they only hire 2 people. He is one of the driver plus a secondary driver. And I thought that was a very good idea, so...
Well, he can't drive the bus and schedule at the same time, right? So would you say that the 2 people that we have are going to have more hours than the 1 person that they have?
What I'm saying is they have 2 people, we're going to have 3 people.
Okay, but are the hours the same is what I'm asking?
No. no, it's gonna be a little bit more hours than we have, but we can look at that when the time comes, when we start
Yeah,
having
you
the
know,
program.
This is a work in progress.
Exactly, when the program comes and see how we can improve on this one. But, the idea is a person that in the senior citizen center for 4 hours every day, we might think about things that,
Well, you riled up the PBA, now you're riling up
I
the senior
rile
citizens.
everybody, I
He's in
rile up
trouble.
every-
Seniors are a lot tougher, just be careful.
Oh, excuse me, the PBA, you have pussycats, I can't third. Anyhow, so after that, Chief Chamberlain came and presented his safety plan for Tenafly. And the issue was, again, the crosswalks, like we discussed over here, the fact that specifically, very, very specifically, the senior citizens part of the committee felt that it's becoming very unsafe for them to cross over the streets. And the streets that they basically talked about, it's of course is River Edge over here, trying to cross where the bus stop is, when and the liquor store. It's always the drivers have to look at the right, and then it's very unsafe. So many proposals were made regarding maybe put an extra delay on the lights. So
Which light are you talking about, River Edge and
Tenafly. Yeah, where the bus stop is across the street, and people come in and cross. Maybe it should be a delay, so first the pedestrian can walk, can cross, and then the car come over to make a right from Tenafly, so they don't get hit and stuff like that. And the flashing lights were very much required.
That's the one you suggested, right?
Yeah.
The flashing light, that's a good
But
idea.
they said that the flashing light cannot be put where there is a stoplight. So that intersection, which is the most dangerous one, was a question. Another very, very dangerous intersection was Magnolia and Highwood, where people are just coming down the highway, flying, and
Well, that might be a good place for one of those flashing lights with a push button.
Exactly.
Because there's not a lot of pedestrian traffic there except at school time.
Exactly,
Drop off
and that should be, and the cars are coming down.
But isn't there a crossing guard there?
There is a crossing guard that crosses the kids on Magnolia, or then they go across.
No, on Magnolia and Highwood, there's no crossing guard there?
There is, I'm saying, they cross the kids, maybe, they cross Magnolia, then people on Highwood are going flying. If somebody at the same time trying to, it's always a question. One crossing guard might not be able to manage 4 different intersections at the same time. So an attention sign over there. The senior citizen, 2 ladies were saying that they take their life in their hands every time they cross. Well, you have to take it with a grain of salt or stuff like that.
How many people have been hit or killed at River Edge and Tenafly or Magnolia and Highway?
I don't know, Tony, and the truth is I don't want to have to happen.
No, I'm asking.
I don't know.
Has it ever happened? I don't know.
I really don't know. I don't remember.
You're aware of somebody being hit where, on Magnolia?
On Magnolia and Highwood, my next door neighbor was hit by a car coming down Highwood, and I cross that every single day with my 2 girls. It is
Well,
beyond
people
dangerous.
speed. They come down that hill.
They fly down Highwood.
It's hard to stay below 25 miles an hour.
Especially when coming down.
That would be a good place for signage.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right.
We just
But
wanna stop.
another thing that we discussed with Chief Chamberlain, and that's a safety issue, was the bus that we're gonna get for the senior citizen is gonna have GPS on it. And it's gonna have 2 GPS systems. One that's gonna be able to schedule all the stops to whatever that's gonna be the most efficient way. And the second one, we would like to be able to have a GPS positioning, so somebody in the borough would know at any moment where the bus is. If there is something you can dispatch, you can call police or something, even if it's in Howard or it's in Paramus, you should say, okay, I have a problem, let me call the Paramus one. And it was a little bit controversial because right now, the police department doesn't have GPS systems for their cars. Well, the DPW has GPS systems. The police department doesn't have GPS system, and I think that there was a question about the safety. But they're gonna have now a list where the bus is gonna be, but not be able to pinpoint where the bus is in an automatic way to call for the emergency if there is some. And that has to be kind of worked out, and it's up to us to define as a group what kind of a safety we want to basically put over here, and what safety we want to have for the Tenafly fleet altogether. Because once we discuss the safety of the bus, we need to discuss also the safety of the police people. If we need to save them or something, we should be able to pinpoint, say, we need emergency help, whatever.
So you're saying we need GPS on our police cars?
I think that we need to isolate all the fleet.
I think that's a
But-
discussion we
That's
should
a
have with the
discussion
police
That's
we
chief.
have.
with the chief of police.
Yeah, that's
starts
right.
with
But there was covered how it got out. And after that, there was a discussion about the future of the, how we're gonna be able to reach the people that we need to reach. And kind of didn't get to any conclusion
What
because
people are you talking about?
we're trying to reach the people that need for the bus.
Oh.
Yeah, how we're gonna be able to reach them and stuff like that. And that's where kind of the whole thing
Well,
is
A, we have the
integrated.
newsletter. Two, we also have our new senior services coordinator.
Yeah.
Word of
Between the
mouth
two of
will
them,
spread
let's
like
hope
wildfire.
we can start making
Those are
some
the people
progress.
that don't get the word of mouth.
Anything else, Max?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
I don't know if I would remember. No.
Can I confuse you?
Yeah.
One more thing,
Yeah.
Cheryl Reynolds, our TVAC
Yes.
person, got a brand new off-road capable mini ambulance.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
outside.
the one outside.
I asked her to
cool.
bring it around so that our council people could see it.
Very, very cool.
Yes, it is very cool.
And what's most cool about it wasn't paid for with taxpayer
Yeah.
dollars,
Fully done.
donations. Thank you. Under new business,
You didn't give Paul a chance.
No, I had
no,
no
Paul said he
report.
had no report. My good guy. Under new business, introduction of an ordinance, somebody want to make the motion?
Wait.
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 17-10 and set the hearing for May 23rd, 2017 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter in the council chambers of the Tenafly Municipal Center.
Is there a second? Thank you. Lisette?
Ordinance number 17-10, an ordinance amending chapter 4, general licensing to establish rules and regulations for raffle permits. Councilmember Barzalato?
Yeah.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayter?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Spot?
Yes.
Oh, just a second, Lizette. We said that we're gonna change Sunday from 9 to 12. We said 9 to 7 o'clock on conducting the raffles on Sunday.
Yeah, 9 to 12.
Yeah, no, to 7 o'clock and,
No, well.
oh, midnight. I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Okay.
New business?
Sure.
The Tenafly Volunteer Fire Department has expressed interest, or actually, we're going to be getting a letter requesting that the new street that's being built on
53 Knickerbocker?
53 Knickerbocker, that the street be named Henry Forcier Road in honor of Henry Forcier, the only Tenafly volunteer firefighter that was killed in the line of duty. I think it's a worthy suggestion, and I think it's something that we really should support 100%.
Do me a favor, Lisette, would you inquire with the building department as to what the process is? I know that I was, and in fact I brought it to the table, I was asked by, one of the professionals, I believe was the engineer that designed the subdivision, for suggestions. In fact, Paul, you remember this.
Yeah, they were looking
Suggestions
for
for a name for this
couple
road.
years ago,
We
yeah.
would, in fact, the one we came up with, what was the name of the house?
Yeah, it's something that had to do with the name of the house,
Yeah,
because
that was-
everything McKay
But I
had
don't-
been
I don't-
taken already.
I don't think they would have an objection to it, but Lisette, would you inquire as to what the process is, who we need to contact? A great idea, Tom. Anything else?
Something that we should think about for down the road, if anybody's ever driven through Norwood or Northville, you see they put up those, they're like signs. Banners of servicemen and women that have served in the borough. And it gives a little history of I think that would be something really wonderful for the borough of Tenafly. I think it would be
Are these
fantastic.
permanent banners? They're up there?
They're permanent banners. But actually, the interesting part is like, some of them are actually paid for by the families of those servicemen and women that served in...
Where are they? I mean, are they on the streets or are they
Along the street.
fixed on
You
buildings?
like
No,
our
along the
telephone
street.
poles?
Yeah, telephone poles all along the avenue as you drive up.
I'm not sure.
That's quite, very, very attractive, I have to admit.
I'll
Very
take,
attractive.
next time you're up there, take a look.
So, really, something to think about.
My only concern is the maintenance of these banners, because obviously, if you remember the banners the bid put up, they don't last forever. And so-
But you should take a look. They're
Okay.
really worthy. That's
You're
all.
talking about the ones across the street, right?
No, these are on telephone poles.
These are the ones which go
Really?
on poles.
Okay, my fault.
Okay, anything else for the
Yeah, it's a
business?
home run.
Under mayor's remarks, I know this is not going to be met well with at least one segment of the audience, but I would like to, with your permission, put on the next work session, street fairs. Okay, we had a street fair a week ago. It was 2 days long. It was in front of, or alongside Cafe Angelique, and I would like to discuss that. I'd like to discuss the future of street fairs. Once again, I know we go through this on a regular basis, but I think it's, I'm sorry. I personally, I'm not pleased with how it went. Sunday was a beautiful day. They had a tremendous amount of foot traffic. Saturday was not a beautiful day. They did not have a lot of foot traffic. But my concern is the impact on the one business. You know, the street fair has been moved from place to place to place because wherever it went, the businesses where it was in front of objected. So now we moved it to where it's only really impacting one business. Okay, the business happens to be a tenant of ours. So I would like to give you my input on that, and then if you folks want to continue continue it there, that's fine. It's whatever you decide, but I think it needs to be reevaluated again. So does anybody have a problem if we put it on the next work session?
No, let's hear for that. I
Thank
thought we need to do that, something about that, because independent of what I was trying to think, the businesses that really support, it's like 50-50, are not the businesses that have frontage on the streets. Mostly are the businesses that have other type of, and we have to understand that then when we make the decision.
Well, I may be wrong, and if I am, Christine, maybe you can give me some information between this meeting and the next. I don't recall seeing any Tenafly businesses
No, they were not.
in this street fair.
I went to the street fair, there was no Tenafly
Okay,
business.
so if there were there, please let me know who they were. So let's talk about it at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, one other thing on the mayor's remarks. It's been brought to my attention that there is a significant amount of repair work and maintenance work being done on our skate park. Most of the damage is caused by kids breaking the rules, primarily bikes and scooters, razor scooters, whatever they are. The equipment was not built for that. Now, the skate park came into existence after a group of young people came before the mayor and council. First they were directed to come before the Recreation Commission or board at the time. With their support, the board's support, they came to us. And for a while, this little committee, I don't want to say they oversaw the street park, the skate park, but they were involved in it. They helped create the rules, etc. Those kids have long aged out. And we have middle school kids and high school kids there, as well as lots of kids and, I don't want to say adults, but lots of young people from other communities, because most communities don't have a skate park, which is great. I like bringing people into the town, and, that's one of the things a street fair does, brings people into our town. However, I think at this particular point in time, a reminder might be helpful to our kids as to the rules. So what I've asked the Board of Education for permission to send a message to the middle school and the high school to be read over the PA or however they wanted to put it out there, reminding the kids of the rules and reminding them that if there's a continuous cost of maintaining and repairing this park, it's possible that the park might be shut down. Because I don't think anybody here is in the mood to spend a fortune maintaining a park because people don't follow the rules.
I agree.
So I just wanted to let you know that that's in the pipeline. I'm waiting to hear back from the assistant superintendent as to whether or not they'll allow us to put this message out.
Can I ask a question? We were supposed to have a monitor that's going all the time through those
We
parks.
do.
Is the monitor doing anything to tell anybody about this illegal use in the park?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
and
the-
as soon as he leaves or she leaves,
Yeah, that's
they
what
go back
I've been a
to...
witness to it. I've had kids leave and I've gone around the block and the kids come right
Yeah,
back.
of
Okay,
course.
You know,
so, all right, so...
It's a
we-
tough-
kids.
You know, basically, if the kids are kids, the Tenafly kids don't take a little more proactive role, and I know it's not easy, peer pressure and that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and some of the kids from other towns might be bigger and older, but if they want a skate park, they've got to start showing a little more responsibility. It's not our responsibility to throw dollar after dollar into this
agree.
park if the kids are not
If
following
it's
the
abused.
rules.
If it's
Yeah, if
abused,
it's
I agree
abused,
with that,
absolutely,
Mayor, totally.
You know, I'm proud of the fact that we have a skate park, where most communities don't. I'm proud of the fact, as well you should be, that when you drive down that street on a beautiful day, you've got a skate park, you've got a soccer cage, which is very popular, you've got basketball courts, and
Yeah.
a lot of these facilities are being used by kids from other towns because they don't have them in their town. That's fine.
Yeah, that's
Okay, as long as they follow the rules, and you know, the basketball courts are pretty good, the soccer cage is pretty good, we needed some changes in the structure itself, but that's been done, and the cage seems to be working, so just wanted to keep you informed. With no further ado, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
No,
Oh, wait,
No, close.
Close session.
Wishful thinking.
Thank you.
That quick.